Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. I am Manali. I'm a podcast producer and I have had the chance to produce four shows that hit Apple charts in several nations. Over the past 2 years, I have produced more than 400 ish episodes. Actually, I stopped counting after 400 episodes for 16, 17 podcasters now. And I basically work with leaders, founders, and CEOs to help them launch podcast and also manage them their podcast, and also I look into the data and give them tips and ideas on how they can scale and grow the podcast as well. So basically, how I see podcast is, I don't see podcast as a standalone thing. I see podcast as a long form of content that helps you communicate the essence of your brand, and then you have to take that message which you are recording in your content to your audience. So this could be in the form of blog post, or newsletter, or even social media clips. Now there's one myth that I want to burst when it comes to podcast. Growing a podcast is not easy. Growing a social media account is not easy as well. But when it comes to podcasting, people have expectations which go over the roof, and they are mostly unrealistic many of the time. Initially in my career, I saw many people with unrealistic expectations when it came to the podcast. And everyone thinks that podcast growth is linearly rising. It's a rising chart, and there's this steady increase in downloads, ranking on charts. The people are hearing from your listeners and audience, and they're giving you feedbacks, and you have amazing reviews on Apple and Spotify, stars, ratings, and everything. So it's not that, but it's actually podcasting is a commitment to create high quality content week after week, or whatever your cadence is, and then test new ideas and stack a heap load of content, and refine your messaging over a period of time, and then test out. So there could be highs, there could be dips, but overall, as you over a long period of time, you'll just see the growth. So good things take time, and all that podcasting demands is your commitment and willing to show up every single week to create high quality content. Now that you have known enough about me, I think we can talk about the case study that I am here to present to you today. So this case study is from a seasonal podcast launch from one of my past clients. This podcast was in the category mathematics and parenting. It was a conversational style podcast, and the host name is Allison. Now, the crux of this case study is that the category under which you list your podcast is very crucial for the success of your podcast, because these podcast listening platforms like Spotify and Apple, they recognize your show based on these categories. Okay, so it's important. Now, I also have made a YouTube short which explains how I find out which should be the correct category that a podcast should be listed under. This is how I do it for my clients. You can refer to that video as well. I'll link it somewhere down in the description. You can take a look at that as well. So here's how one simple tweak helped one of my clients to top her podcast in her home country and rank in 6 other countries. Okay, so Allison is the host of the show, got in touch to launch the season 2 of the podcast. And before we get started, so this is my regular procedure. I try to familiarize myself with the format of the show, to get to know the host better, so that I understand the vibe of the show, the personality of the host, and I also looked into the back end of the show. And while doing that, I noticed something very important, that the primary category of the show was how to. And I had a hunch that this might not be the best strategy going forward. So what I did was, I again double checked with Allison, and we had already spoken about the target audience and the goals for her podcast. So I doubted if the category was a good fit for the kind of content that we were going to put out on Allison Loves Math. So I asked her whether she was okay with, trying to change the primary category of the show to mathematics, as this will help Apple Podcast recognize that her podcast was for people who are interested in mathematics. And so we changed the primary category of the show to mathematics, and we launched the show. And to our surprise, after 2 weeks after the launch, the podcast hit the Apple charts and also topped charts in the client's home country and several other countries. So this is a snapshot from the rankings in the states in the mathematics category on the Apple podcast platform. So as you can see, it was ranking all this while. The date I took the screenshot as well. And then after that, it ranked as well. So it was 12 before, that's somewhere right here. And every time we released an episode, it just got back to the same level. So it was on the charts, and it's continues to be on the chart. And so basically, this little change helped Apple recognize that her podcast is in the mathematics category. These are the several nations that it got ranked under: United States of America, Great Britain, Canada, Australia, Sweden. And looking back, I realized that taking a closer look at the details made all the difference. The podcast continues to inspire others and reach new heights. And little tweaks can make a big impact, and you don't know which tweak might take you to the heights you want to go to. So Allison has given me a beautiful testimonial and has this to say about me. Manali is the podcast manager and editor for Allison Loves Math podcast. She is brilliant, and I highly recommend her to anyone who needs support with their podcast. And then she also tells that I come up with a lot of idea. I do great editing, show notes, communication, and it's not just a job for me, which is true, by the way. I really care about the podcast that I'm working on and help my clients meet their goals. So if you have any questions relating to podcasting, you can hit me up on LinkedIn, Twitter. So that was the video for today. I really hope that you found this useful and learned why category of your podcast is very crucial for the podcast listening platforms under which you are listing your podcast. So make sure you check the correct category on Apple, even Spotify, if you are individually submitting your episodes or your podcast to these platforms. If you have somebody like Buzzsprout, then they do the heavy lift. And if you have any questions relating to your podcast, or if you would like to launch a podcast or need help with the distribution of your podcast, you can hit me up on LinkedIn or Twitter, or you can even book a call with me. You'll find the links somewhere above on my channel banner. And if you have any suggestions for me, you can drop a comment below right under the video. If you like this video, like the video, subscribe to the channel for more on podcasting and content marketing. That's it. Bye.